let's talk about movies today. I don't have like a specific Bible passage to break down like I often will, but I was watching this movie and there was this line and I went, it preaches. It totally preaches. I don't know about you. My favorite movie of all time is a tie between Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, not 5, and then Rocky 6, Rocky Balboa. That's like a tie for first place in all of those movies. And then like right underneath that is All Things Creed. This is very easily explained. I feel like this is not a typical girl's first favorite movie listing. One, it's not like, it's not your romantic comedies and all of that, which are great. And I love those too. But it's also not something that in 2025 people are going to reference because these movies definitely came out last century and then some. So why is this the favorite? I grew up a little sister to an amazing brother who's 4 years older than me. So what he thought was cool, I had to think was cool because I just wanted him to think I was cool. So there was that part. And I was the only girl cousin for most of my upbringing with like a bunch of cousins until Sarah Beth came along. But I was well into my preteen years when that happened. And then I was also the only girl in the neighborhood. So I was just around boys all the time. I remember when I was a little girl, I used to get dressed up. I loved girly things, and I would get dressed up in like the really frilly dresses. And then I would strap on a toy rifle and then go outside and play army with the other boys in the neighborhood. Or I thought I was playing. Really, they stuck me up in the tree and said, your job is to be the lookout. And they would just leave me in the tree all day while they ran around and played. But I thought I had a really important role in the army with my pink ruffled dress. So this was the way I grew up. My tea parties where girls are having tea parties like with their stuffies and, all of those things. My tea parties I had for Rocky and Rambo and Conan the Barbarian. They came to my tea parties and ate pink biscuits. Loved them too. And yes, I am aware that Rocky and Rambo were played by the same actor, but in my head, very different people. So anyway, all that to say, all of the Rocky movies, always a favorite. And I don't want to if you haven't watched them, you need to go watch them. Don't rely on Creed. You need the backstory. It's so pure. But in the first Rocky movie, he fights Apollo Creed, which is the future Michael B. Jordan's Adonis Creed's father, for those that are in the current franchise. So he fights him in the first movie. And I won't give away the ending, but it's a hero's ending of sorts. And then you have Rocky 2, and there's a rematch between the two of them. And these are two championship fighters, and they are just going toe to toe. And it's the end of the movie where you're like expecting the theme music to start kicking in, and they're fighting, and they're fighting, and they're fighting. And the announcers, everybody is like, I can't believe these two are still standing. I can't believe they're still on their feet. And the one announcer says to the other announcer, he's like, how are these two guys still up on their feet? And the announcer answers him, and he goes, conviction and guts. I was like, I heard this. I'm watching this on TV over the holidays. And he says this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that'll preach. Have you ever wondered how you as a Christian are still on your feet when the enemy has come for you day after day, minute after minute? How are you still standing on your feet for Jesus? Conviction and guts. How is it possible that you can show up to work day after day for a boss that totally disrespects you and does not pay you what you are worth? You show up because of conviction and guts. How then do you put your tithe money in the offering basket every Sunday when you're looking at your bills going, I don't know how this is going to get paid, but I'm going to obey the Lord and I'm going to tithe this money to the church? Conviction and guts. You see where I'm going with this? If we don't have a conviction that God is who he says he is, then when we get into the fighting ring and we are going toe to toe with the enemy, the easy thing to do is going to be back down, sit down, let him have this fight. But when we have a conviction that God is who he says he is and that we are who he says we are, and we believe everything that he says, that conviction is deep within us that we are more than conquerors, that there is nothing that can separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus, that there is nothing that can defeat us because we serve on the winning side. When we stand with that conviction, then we have the guts in the middle of the hardest battles of our life to step up and to say, no, I'm clothed in the full armor of God. And there is a fight left in me. And I will say that in Rocky 2, that fight works out in his favor. That conviction is what gives him the guts to move forward. That conviction that he can do this, and the conviction for us that we are God's children, that we are co-heirs with Jesus Christ if we share in his suffering so that we may share in his glory. And part of that suffering is fighting, remembering who we are, remembering who he is, living on that conviction and going toe to toe with the enemy. It's conviction and guts. And if you happen to find yourself in a situation where the enemy has landed one too many punches, and now it's like you're, as Rocky said, you're seeing 3 of him out there, then follow the advice of Rocky's trainer and hit the one in the middle. But with conviction, find the courage to keep fighting. Conviction and guts.